Hello my friends, in today's video we're going to be doing a really nice commercial look using Davinci Resolve 17. This tutorial going to be good for beginners to intermediate, and hopefully you're going to learn some really new and cool techniques. And before we start, I want to say special thank you for Raw Film for providing this amazing stock footage for this tutorial. Be sure to check them out. I have fantastic 25% off links in the description below. So let's get started. Alright, so now we're gonna switch to Davinci Resolve. And here's our shot. It's very cool, kind of like a product placement shot of like a whiskey or whatever it is. Well, let's assume it's a whiskey. And the camera kind of goes in and we have our product. All right, so what we're going to do and how do we turn relatively not a difficult shot into more higher end photography? Well, the first thing we got to do is to convert our log into Rec 709. Now, there's several ways you can do converting it. For example, we're working right now with a red raw. There's a default LUTs out there converting it. I'm going to use my own. I'm going to go to the LUTs and I'm going to use my Origami Cinema LUT. So we convert flat image to Rec 709. So that's a very basic conversion, and here we have it. So now we have a very nice clean image. So let me label this Rec 709, and all the adjustments I'm going to be doing from now on going to be prior the actual LUT. So let's take a look really quick full screen how everything looks. So right away we can tell that looks much nicer than original image. Okay, so now what can we do to enhance a little bit of our visuals? Well, one thing I noticed right away that we can add a little bit more depth to this image. And how we're going to do it? By introducing shadows and highlights. It basically kind of very basic concept of it, like when you're in the middle school and you're drawing a circle and you're basically shading a circle, leaving a little white spot, and then you realize that circle turned into a round object, like a round ball. Basically, that's the whole idea behind it. And it's not very difficult. So I'm going to do a new node. It's Alt-S shortcut. And I'm immediately going to convert it into parallel because I want to be piping from a very nice clean source. So that's why I never like to do any kind of adjustment in the first node. I always want to keep it nice and clean so I get all that information from original raw file. Okay, so let's introduce a little bit of saturation. Okay, SAT, and I'm gonna go over here to the wheels and add a slight bump into saturation. Okay, so something like that. Now, if I'm gonna go here and take a look at our scopes, we can see that there's still a little bit of information right over here that we can compress slightly a little bit to give it a little bit more contrast. However, I have to be very careful over here and not overdo it. Okay, so knowing that, let's try to do it. So I'm gonna use wheels and just slightly bring it down. That way it looks a little bit more higher end. Okay, and let's check it out. So before and after, and let's see the whole thing before and after. Okay, so let's check it out. Before and after. So that looks great. We're already on the right track. And this one I'm going to call shadows. All right, so that's very good. Now, let's see what possibly can be done about this whole situation. Well, I can do a little bit enhancement of the background light. Even though it's very subtle, I can still try to do it. So I'm going to do another node, Alt B, and I'm gonna call it BJ light, background light. And if I'm gonna take a look how this whole light goes, we can see that it's slightly kind of very nice circle of light over here. So I'm gonna do round object, okay, round mask, like so. Introduce a little bit, and I want to make sure that it's very nicely feathered because I don't want to introduce any kind of additional artifacts. Okay, so once this thing goes, okay. But now there's a problem. Now I obviously have a table in front of it. So what can we do? Well, now I can actually do my own masking. So it's very important. Let me try to track this, and I don't need perspective and rotation. Just want to make sure that this one will stay where it's supposed to be. Okay, so something like that. Then let's track forward. Okay, it's staying. That's a good sign. I want to make sure that it's staying right there and it's not moving. Otherwise, it's going to kind of ruin the experience. Okay, that looks great. That looks fantastic. I really like it. So let's wait until the tracking is over. Okay, perfect. And only one thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to move it slightly more down. Okay, so let's see. Beautiful. Okay, so now we have the track. Now I want to introduce a mask. I want to make sure that we have the light behind the table and not in front of it. So let me go over here. Okay. This is temporarily so I can see. Okay, we're gonna reset that thing in a second. Okay, and now I'm gonna do another mask. Okay, it's gonna be relatively rough because it's a tutorial. I don't want to spend whole night doing this, but you got to keep in mind you need to respect the scale a little bit because our camera zooms in. So when you do something like this, keep in mind and account for scaling. It's very important, otherwise your thing may look a little bit off. And I know I'm doing a sloppy job, but again, like I said, I don't want to be sitting here all night doing this since it's just a tutorial. Okay, so something like that. Boom. All right, so now we have a relatively cool selection. I'm going to do a little bit feathering of the edge. And now that I have this selected, okay, we can see that we can select between them. Now I'm going to track forward and hopefully it's going to stick. Okay, so far I like it. All right, so far so good. Okay, perfect. Amazing. All right, that's a perfect track. That's exactly what I needed. And watch what I'm gonna do now. Very cool. So now I'm gonna add a point here. Okay, I'm gonna go to frame and I'm going to kind of slightly sort of add a little bit animation to it. So let's see. Something very subtle. We don't need much details. I want to make sure that it's not elevating earlier than it's supposed to be. Okay. Kind of like that. And believe me, there are better programs out there to do this kind of stuff, but you know, we're gonna work with what we got. We're gonna make it easy. All right. It's all very sloppy, but it works. So now we're gonna go to the mask and we're going to basically invert it. Okay, so now once we inverted this mask, we have light behind it now. So that's very cool. And this one, I'm going to reset it. So if we're going to toggle before and after, we can see that the light is behind actual table and we're not really affecting it. Well, obviously to a point. Okay, so I'm going to drop down highlights a little bit and let's go into the full screen and let's see how it looks in a full screen. So that's already looks fantastic. So check it out before and after. And we can see that our little trick, we enhanced the background, but we're not doing anything with the foreground. So that's really cool. All right, back to me. So now that we have this kind of baby steps going on, what else we can do? Well, let's start editing after the parallel mixer. And by the way, if you want to really learn all this kind of stuff, I have fantastic premium tutorial on origami color. I'm going to put a link in the description and on the screen. Check it out. It's basically universal course in Davinci Resolve. It's going to teach you tons of incredible stuff. So it's really, really cool and will help you to learn all this kind of things. Anyways, so here we have it. Now let's start working on actual glass. I think the glass is a little bit flat. So let me do another mask over here. Kind of little cricket mask, but it doesn't matter. Again, it's just a tutorial. One thing you have to now pay attention that we have the smoke. Smoke is volumetric, so whatever adjustments you're gonna do, be sure it's very nice and subtle. Otherwise, the smoke going to be really weird looking. Okay. All right, so that looks good. Again, we're gonna track back, and as we can see, track's all right, I guess. Well, it's okay. Like that, and then we're gonna track forward. I'm gonna manually adjust this kind of stuff. It's all right. It's always difficult to track glass and water and things like that. As long as I'm gonna get like a basic tracking information, I'm gonna be all right. All right, so that kind of, yeah, it's gonna work. So I'm gonna go to the frame so we can manually adjust things. So like that. There's many different ways you can fix this kind of stuff. I like to go in the frame, but like I said, there's multiple ways you can do it. Some easier, some not, so it doesn't really matter. Just want to get some kind of... All right. Yeah, that's going to do it. And then we're going to go here. And then we're going to like size it down. So let's see. Boom. All right. That perfectly works. So now simply I'm going to use the contrast. Okay. Just like this. A pivot. Okay. Just like that. And let's see if I'm gonna go a little shadow, and I want to give a little tint to the glass. So something like that. It's actually gonna look really cool. So now, what did I do? Let's go to the full screen and let's see. So this was before and this was after. Look at that very little difference, but in reality, how much effect that actually gives us. So that's already incredible. And again, before and after, we're doing really a fantastic job. Again, I'm going to do Alt P. We're going to be working again in the parallel. So let me move things around. Okay, so like that. And for this one now, let's see, what do I need? Let's toggle before and after. Well, I kind of need overall mood a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put very basic, just like so, mask. All right, I'm going to invert it. I'm going to bring overall exposure slightly down. Okay, I want to make sure that we have a little nice feather going on. Okay, and again, I'm going to track it backwards. And that's going to give us a little bit more dimension to this whole thing. It's going to make a little bit more extra 3D, and it's going to blend in very nicely. Unfortunately, the tracking is a little bit slow, but we're getting the thing. So let's check it out how it looks on a full screen. And I think that looks really, really nice. Little by little, we're getting there. So that's really cool. Okay, tracking almost complete. So let's take a look at our scopes. Everything looks healthy. Let's move it around. We're not clipping, we're not crashing anything. So everything looks healthy, meaning that we're on the right track. And then again, this is before and this is after. All right, now let's say that we're working on something that we need to change the color of. In this particular case, let's call this one whiskey in the gyro, and how we're going to qualify it. And the common mistake I always see when people try to qualify something is that they're using all three. They're using hue, they're using saturation, and they're using luminance. Even though it sounds counterproductive, but using sometimes more information than you need to may result in a very bad selection. Like in this case, if I'm going to try to select this, like that, okay, we can see that the table is also being selected. Just as a brutal example. Well, how to go about it without really making a smart move and saving time? Well, if we're just going to look at this image, right off the bat, I can tell you that whiskey or, apple juice, whatever's inside, has the highest saturation out of entire image. So why would we waste computing power and confuse our system with unnecessary data piping in? We don't have to do that. So I'm going to turn off hue and I'm going to turn off luma. And what I'm going to do now, sorry, getting thirsty here. What I'm going to do now, I'm only going to use saturation. And very simply, just like that, boom, watch this. Perfect key. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of blur, a little bit of softening, maybe, and a little bit of clean white, and we have a very nice, perfect selection. So what we can do now, obviously this liquid is overpowering, whatever it is. Even though for commercial purposes, let's say if you're doing advertisement for a drink, that may be a good thing, but I still feel like it's a little bit too much. So I'm simply just going to crank down our saturation, and with the hue, if we want to, we can change the color of the drink. Now, you always have to be careful when you do this kind of stuff because everything can be changed to a certain point and then the image is going to start falling apart. So when you do this kind of, operation, always keep in mind that don't push it too hard, otherwise you may give away your tricks. For example, you can always look kind of like at the bottom and you'll sometimes have actual original color residue sneaking somewhere in the background, giving away your tricks. So you always have to be careful with that. Okay, I'm gonna make, let's see, probably even less. All right, so that looks cool. Let's check it out before and after. Okay, just again for tutorial purposes. And if we feel that it's a little bit too much, we can use the key output and kind of like blend in between. And now it looks like interesting drink inside. Okay, so let's again go to a full screen and see how much of a difference we've made just by doing a simple adjustments. Now, I have a lot of people asking me about like a product color grading and this and that. This kind of stuff are very expensive because you can see it requires a lot of little details, and we can go on and on, keep refining this image. So just in the future, just so you know, the product color grading or product photography is very, very expensive. All right. So just like that. Now we can add, let's see, another thing. So now we have a circle, but if we're gonna think a little bit differently and move this thing like that, we're actually rotating in the 3D space, and we're gonna place it on the table. Okay, so that's really cool. And now we can give a table a tint, kind of maybe something like wood, you know, it's always nice, makes an impact. Should we make it brighter? Oh yeah, that looks really cool. And now when we're gonna track this one, now in this case, let's see, tracking back, very, very nice. Okay, everything stays. And we have this glass a center of attention. Okay, so let's see here. Let's do again before and after. Looking really cool. Yeah, before and after. Okay, so that looks fine. Now, let's see. Let's do another one. And this time I want to take care of the background. I want to make backgrounds slightly darker a little bit so we can sort of penetrate and see our drink in the foreground. So simply, again, I'm going to use very simple technique. Just going to use like that, like this. Okay. Very nice, clean selection. Okay. Let's see how far I can take this. Yeah, probably just gonna leave it at that. Okay, so I'm probably just gonna leave it at that. And instead of shadows, I'm gonna do a little bit of midtones so we can preserve our actual table. Okay, like that. Perfect. All right. And now that we color grade the whole thing, we can do a general pass over everything. So, for example, if we want to make it look like retro, we can. In this case, we can actually do it either before LUT or after. At this point, it doesn't really make much difference. But let's say we want to give it kind of maybe a little vintage feel. Let's see. So something interesting. Okay, like that. Maybe something like this. Okay, maybe have. There we go. So that's like slightly. I don't like too much green. Maybe a bit warmer. Something like that. Okay, look at that. So look how much of a difference that grading added, even though it's not too pronounced. But if we take a look full screen, okay, again, before and after, we can see really cool effect. Look at that. That's pretty cool. In original source, obviously 8K. That's why it works a little bit slow, but I think looks really cool. And if we want, what we can do at the very end, we can add film grain. Just for the sake of everything being blended together. Okay, film grain. We're gonna use a pretty big one. Let's see, grain strength. Okay, something like that. And I only want to give grain to the highlights. I don't want to touch black. So what we're going to do in the film grain section, we're just simply going to go like that. Beautiful. And if we're going to take a closer look, just like this, we are only having film grain in our highlights. All right, and this is basically how you kind of do product color grading, higher end product color grading. Obviously, we can go on and on, whatever, you know, we can, for example, in a more advanced, we can eliminate little light over here. We can add a bunch of stuff, but it's probably we're going to do in the next tutorials. Anyways, thank you for watching. Be sure to check it out, Origami Lots. Follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.